Hi, I'm Callum from Tyne Valley Motorhomes, and this is a handover video of an Adria Sonic Supreme 700 DC. So once you arrive on your site, in this locker here, which is your service locker, you do have your onboard hookup point. So it's not outside the vehicle, it's inside the locker, which is quite handy because you can feed your wire through, connect the vehicle, so you get your hookup lead, lift the collar, slide it onto the hookup point there, lift this little grommet out and pop your lead in there so it just holds the lead in and you can close the door. And on this side you've got a external TV point, so if you wanted to put a telly in your awning, if you're on the continent, not so much in this country unless we've got good weather like we do at the moment, but more so if you're on the continent and you want to watch your telly in a awning, or you want to put an air awning on in this country, then you can because it's all waterproof. You've got a satellite input and an output, but normally we have fitted the sat input. Normally it's just two outputs from the TV aerial if you've got a tele aerial fitted, but we've made this so that you can connect from a freestanding or external satellite system, and then on the top one you can take the feed out if you want the telly outside. You've also got a 10 amp 12 volt and two USBs in there as well. Opening all the locks on the outside of the van is done via this Adria key here, which is your habitation key, including the door, which is on central locking. You've got your awning, which we'll come on to in a moment, two fridge vents. Another extra that we've fitted to this vehicle, so it doesn't come from standard from the factory like this, is an external gas point. So this customer has asked for an external gas point. So if you wanted to connect to a Cadillac or an external barbecue, this is a bullfinch connection type. So you get a red bullfinch connector which goes in here and turns on. Connect the other end to a length of orange gas hose connecting both ends of the barbecue and the fitting with a Jubilee clip to seal that, and you'll be able to use the bottle on board the vehicle without using the second bottle. Awning light. In the back here you do have your garage. So spare wheels in the spare wheel cover there. You've got your awning winding handle, which we'll get onto in a moment. Your tool kit, which includes a jackknip brace and a torn eye, everything that you need to take the wheel off if you get a puncture and replace it with the spare. Customers also fitted these garage cargo straps, so they're there to tie things down. They normally don't come with them from the factory. We have put them on as a request from the customer. And you do have a light in the garage here as well. This bed at the back can go up and down, so depending on what you're putting in the garage, so if you're putting a bike in, you would push it up and it would tie its position. And it'll just mean you get that extra headroom in the garage for the larger items such as a bike. Or if you wanted the bed lower, you just pull it down. Like so. 12 volt, 10 amp source in here. To 40 volt socket if you want power in the garage, and underneath here you do have your external shower, which you can choose from hot and cold, but obviously the heating does have to be on and the hot water has to be warm for that to work. Otherwise, if the hot water hasn't been on, you will not get any hot water, it'll just be cold. Cargo tie down hooks throughout the rails on both sides to tie your loads down. On the back of the van you do have your high level brake light, and underneath there you have your reversing camera. The back panel has been strengthened to take a bike rack, so it can take a Fiamma bike rack, because these are Fiamma bars, so you just need a Pro C bike rack or a one for electric bikes, depending on what you're carrying. depends on what rack you can get, because the electric bike ones now carry a lot more weight than the standard conventional standard bikes. But it is for Fiamma, not Thule. Parking sensors on the rear bumper. Storage, which is the same this side as the other side on the garage. Your waste, so this is your waste water, so this is any dirty water that you've put down any plug hole, goes into a separate holding tank, and this is electronically operated valve which switch is beside the passenger door. So it's in the cab and it's a two-way switch, so you've got open or closed. You've got to have that open when you drive over your grid to get rid of your dirty water. Don't drive around with a tank full of dirty water, because you're just going to add weight to the vehicle for no reason. It's going to take up a bit of payload, so it's going to take weight out your payload because you're adding weight to the vehicle, and you potentially could be running overweight if you didn't do that. Plus you're going to use a lot more fuel if you were to carry around dirty water with you. So what I would do is drive over the grid on the way out of your site if you're not on a fully serviced pitch, and drop the water. This is your cassette locker. So to get the cassette out, you lift the orange handle and slide the cassette out of the vehicle. You can then either carry it or you can wheel it to your waste disposal point. And then empty. Remove the grey cap, pop that to one side. Press the orange button at the back as you start to pour, then press the orange button and let all the contents of the cassette out. Once you've done this, there's normally a tap, so you'd put some water in, give it a rinse by putting the cap back on, rinse it, tip out again before going in with a cap full of liquid. So this can be either the green or the blue. This is a 120ml cap. Ask the site which they prefer you to use depending on where. Some sites now want you to use the green just because of their septic tanks compared to the blue, but ask when you book and you'll be able to take the right chemical with you. LPG, so normally this vehicle is set up for 2 bottles, which it is. 2 colour propane bottles, but this customer has had gas flow fitted, so we're just waiting on his Part X coming in with his bottles to switch over to his new van, but we fitted a gas flow filler. So if it was a gas flow system that you were wanting, it's a refillable system, so you can buy the gas from any LPG centre that sells LPG. So most petrol stations do abroad if you're going on the continent. There's a few in this country that do as well. Connection here, so it's a bayonet fitting. You'd push the gun on, you'd lock it on, and you'd pull the trigger back to pressurise it, and press and hold the button on the display panel of the pump until it simply stops filling. But this can take 2 bottles. If you didn't have a gas flow system, it would just be conventional bottles that you would put on, turn off before you travel. And what you'd need to do is make sure that when one's empty, you carry a spare, and you would just change the pigtail, which is normally a hand tightened pigtail, left to tighten, right to loosen, onto the other bottle, and always make sure your bottles are turned off on both systems and strapped in before you travel. Flue here for your Aldi heating system. So this will work on gas and electric, but the flue's more for a gas to allow the fumes out of the vehicle, so it's an exhaust. Just make sure that's always obstruction free, but it does give you the location of where the boiler is situated on board. This is a 12 volt socket, pump socket even. So what you can do is, if you can't get a hose to the vehicle, so what you would do is fill the motorhome, carry a hose with some hose fittings, as it's mainly just a brass tap on site. Pop the hose into here and wait until it overflows, or until you are happy there's enough water on board, which you can see on the main control panel. If you can't do that and you want to bring water in a bucket or an aqua roll, you can get a pump which goes in here. So you just take this cap off. This is a 12 volt fitting. Pop that in there, pop the other end in here, drop the end into the water. It'll suck the water out of the bucket into the main freshwater tank. Because this is a new diesel engine, so it'll take AdBlue. This is your AdBlue tank, and on a Fiat Ducato it takes 19 litres, and it'll do a full 5,500 mile on a full 19 litres. Once you've covered 4,000 mile and you've got 1,500 miles to go, you'll get a light on the dash which will give you a mileage countdown. Top it up within the mileage countdown and you'll be fine. If you allow it to go to 0, the vehicle simply won't start. So what I would normally do is, once the light comes on, look for a petrol station. You can normally buy it on the pump now, or you can buy it in the drums, and you might want to keep a 10-litre drum in the garage. Just top that up. But depending on how many miles you do a year will determine how many times you need to top that up. Diesel for the engine. Opens with the main Fiat key. So you can fill with diesel there. With it being in A-class, the door for the cab is on the passenger side. The switch here is for your waste. So all you need to do is, it's a two-way switch, lift it up and it'll start draining. Knock it down to the down position and it'll stop and lock the tank shut. Underneath the floor here is where the engine battery lives on a Fiat Ducato. So it's not underneath the bonnet, it's physically underneath the cab floor. So should you ever need to put a charger on, or you want to change that in years to come, it is under the floor, and the bonnet release is just here. So underneath the bonnet you do have your screen wash, which is the main one you're going to need when filling your screen wash up, which is here. And further back you do have your coolant and your brake fluid. Weight plate here, so stage 2 conversion. 4.4 gross vehicle weight, so you can't go over 4.4 tonne when driving. That's the vehicle and the payload. Can't go over 4.4 tonne. If you were to put a tow bar on, you can tow up to 6,150 kilograms. So that's your train weight. So you would take your 4.4 even tonne out of that, and that'll give you how much you can put on the back on a trailer. If you ever need to jump start the vehicle, the earthing point is here. It's quite hard to see with these pipes. So your earthing point is just here. So that's where your black clip would go on there. And then use the key or something flat and pop it in here. And lift that up. And that is your positive for giving or receiving a jump start. So once you come into the motorhome, on your Adria 12 volt control panel, you've got your master switch in the top right hand corner. So you can turn the panel off or you can turn it on. And if you've got the entertainment system turned on, you'll get that, which I'll show you in a moment how to turn that on and off. This is your light switch, so this is your master switch for your lights, and you can turn your lights on the inside of the vehicle. This scrolls through both, so you've got the inside lights and the awning lights, which you can turn on and off through the panel. Underneath you've got the inside and outside temperature. Settings, should you need it to change the time when the clocks go back and forth, the brightness of the panel, and the screen timeout. So if you don't touch the panel for so long, it will just go completely blank until you press any button or the control dial and it will come back on. And then pump, you can turn your pump on and off by pressing this one. Coming down this side, so you've got your master switch like I've explained. You've got your battery reading, so you can see the cab battery and the leisure battery. Turn the dial and you can see exactly what they're reading. So the cab is currently reading 14 volts and the habitation leisure battery is currently reading 14.3 volts with 0.12 amps coming off the battery. So, or should I say 0.12 amps coming in. So there's 12 amps on the feed from the hookup coming in to charge the battery. What I would do to read the batteries correctly is unhook the vehicle. So you want to get rid of that bottom figure by unhooking it, and it will read the battery level status and you'll get a true reflection of the battery, because when it's hooked up it does give you a false reading. And then underneath you do have your fresh water tank capacity, so you've got 75% in the freshwater tank and 0 in the waste. But you can see them all there, so you can see temperatures. You unhook up, your awning lights off, you unhook up and it's charging your leisure battery. 75% fresh water, 0 waste, and your pumps on. So that is your Adria control panel. So this motorhome is fitted with the Aldi heating and hot water system. So you've got your Aldi panel here, so you can turn it on. Press menu and you can get this screen here. So you can see that the outside temperature is 20 degrees. If you want the inside heating on, it's always got to be above the outside air temperature, because the thermostat is located here and it's next to the door. So when you open the door, in the winter it'll take a while to heat up, because if you're in and out the vehicle, this is picking up that it's cold, so it'll take a while for it to heat up, and it'll read. So if you've selected 30 degrees on here, it might read 20 degrees for ages if you're in and out the van, because this is near the door. So what you need to do is always make sure that the inside temperature is above the outside air temperature, otherwise it won't work. So you can select the plus and the minus here to change the temperature. And above, you'll see that I've put that at 26.5 degrees in black at the bottom, but in grey above, it's already at 23.5 degrees. Aircon is fitted with this as well, and it's wired through the Aldi, so you can have the light on the aircon by pressing the AC light, which is in the bottom corner. You can prioritise the energy source, so it will always prioritise electric first. So you've got 1 kilowatt, which is 750 watts, 2 kilowatts, which is 1500 watts, or 3 kilowatts, which is 300 watts. So it all depends on the amperage of your site, which will determine whether you use 1, 2 or 3. Normally it's 2 on most sites throughout the UK, 1 if you're on a small SEL site or abroad on an air, and 3 if you're on a super pitch, but depending on what else you're running could trip the vehicle, so normally I would just go for 2 kilowatts. And then underneath, if you are wild camping, you can use gas, so you can just turn the gas on and off there with the switch at the bottom in the right hand corner. If you're wild camping, you will have to use gas because you'll have no other source available other than gas. But if you're away in the winter and you want to boost the heating or the hot water, you can put the electric and gas on together for the first 20 minutes. Normally it takes the chill off the van, and then you turn the gas off and allow the electricity to continue and maintain the temperature that you've selected. Hot water, so you can have it on off if there's no water in the boiler or on board, on, or you can have it on boost. Boost is a 30-minute timer, and what that'll do is it'll turn the heating off and it'll prioritise all the heat to the hot water system. So if you want the heating and hot water on together, just have the hot water run on and it'll run together. Pressing menu, again you'll get to the settings, and you've got 3 pages of settings. Main ones you're going to need are nighttime and daytime mode. So nighttime mode, you can select the start time and the end time, and what that'll do is it'll put a timer on the nighttime mode, which is where you determine the temperature of the vehicle. So without turning it down before bed, what you could do is you could select it to start at 10 o'clock and it to end at 7 o'clock, and you can select the days you want, so Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, so you'd have it. And what that'll do is you can select the temperature. So say you have the vehicle at 17 degrees during the day in the winter, but on a night you want it to be at 14 degrees. It will automatically drop to nighttime mode when it gets to 10 o'clock, and it will allow it to keep the water and the heating to 70. Obviously the water will stay at 60 degrees, but the temperature of the vehicle will stay at 14 degrees like set. Same when daytime mode, you can select that to start. So say you wanted that to start at, so you stop the nighttime mode at 7 o'clock, you might want to start the daytime mode at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and let it finish at, say, 9 o'clock at night, ready for nighttime mode to take over at 10. And all that'll do is so you can select your interior temperature there. So say you wanted that to be 19 degrees, you can set it, and your hot water to be on. And it's the same with nighttime mode. And you've also got on nighttime mode, if you were to use it in the summer, you can have the quiet mode on the aircon. So it means that it'll not have the aircon on loud, it'll be blowing it cooler. So if you are in the south of France, you can have the aircon on and it's not going to be too loud for you. This does have a inbuilt heat exchanger as well, this Aldi. So what it'll do is it'll take the wasted heat from your engine and always pre-warm your boiler of the vehicle. So what you've got to do is you've got to leave this on when you travel. So just turn the panel on and leave this on and just select the temperature with no energy source selected. So what you would do is you would just select it to say, if you were more in the winter, you might want to select it to 27 degrees or higher. And what that'll do is when the engine's stopped, it'll be pre-warming. The coolant will pre-warm the boiler, meaning that it's already somewhat warm and it'll not take that much longer to get warm after, once you select either electric or gas. So with the Adria being double floored, your freshwater tank is sandwiched between the floors, and the hatch is here, so you lift that up. This is your freshwater tank, this is your freshwater drain here. So it tells you the wheel there. So it's 110 litres that this tank can hold. So if you turn it so far, it will allow 90 litres out of the tank if it's full and leave 20 litres in. So this is like travel mode, and it will reduce the weight of the vehicle by letting the water out, because otherwise you're going to be carrying 110 kilograms around with you. Taking it down to 20 litres will allow you to stop, use the toilet, have a cup of tea in the vehicle if you are on a longer trip or a longer journey and you want to just stop and break it up the drive. Or you can turn it all away and you can drain all the water out of the tank, which you would do if you were storing the vehicle for any length of time to stop the water becoming stagnant, if you've taken on a source of contaminated water, or if you are winterizing the vehicle. It's very important when you winterize the vehicle you allow all the water out of the van, because if not, the frost could freeze the water in the tank, which would then cause it to split and cause damage to the tank and the workings, pipework, everything, because it's all plastic on a motorhome. So make sure you winterize the vehicle. You're always opening the waste, the fresh, the boiler, all the taps out, and then you turning the pump on and for 10 seconds and just blowing the water out of the pump and the filter. I'll show you where the filter is, because underneath your drawer in the kitchen, and you need to take that off as well when winterizing, just to stop the water from freezing in the filter. But it's very important that you drain your water off, which is here. So all you would do is just turn it, you'll hear it, it's coming out the center of the van, and then it close, you just turn it back. So turn it the driver's side, the passenger side to open, the driver's side to close. So in the kitchen you've got 3 gas burners, which have got an inbuilt ignition, so just push down and you'll be able to light. But like I say, we're waiting on the customer's gas flow bottles to be fitted to this, so that we will have gas on board once these bottles come. But we have tested it with a conventional gas bottle in our workshop through its PDI. Underneath you've got an oven and grill with inbuilt ignition there as well. You might just want to take these out when you travel, because they can cause a bit of rattling. If you ever need any parts for your oven, there's a sticker on here with a model number. If you just supply us with that, we'll be able to get the right parts for the vehicle, and well, not so much the vehicle, more the oven. Storage underneath. Press the catches in and you've got your sink cover in there, your aircon remote, your bullfinch connection, because it does have a gas barbecue point on fitted by us for the customer at a cost option. Storage. Under here, to remove this drawer, you've got 2 levers. So if you put your hands underneath, you've got 2 levers and you need to squeeze them in and you can lift the drawer off. Lift the drawer off and pop it to one side. And this is your water pump. So when you turn the pump on, this will kick in and pressurise, and then it will go quiet. And then once you open the tap, as the taps have all got inbuilt micro switches, it will know the water's being drawn and the pump will kick in to pressurise the water. This is a pump here. It's got a little plastic filter in there with a plastic cover. In the winter, once you've drained it off and you've left the tap open and you've turned the pump on and blown any water that's sitting in any of these plastic lines and the filter itself, it's very important that you just get a tea towel, unscrew this and take this out. Take the cover off, pop it in the sink, and then before you use it, even leave the drawer out just so that you remember to pop it back on. Screw it back on before you fill the vehicle with water and turn the pump on, because otherwise you will just flood down here. But you need to remove that because otherwise the filter housing could crack with the cold if there's any water left in. So just for sake, remove it. Then when you come to reuse it, you've got no problems and you're not having to wait for any parts. So just above the oven, if you push this panel in, which is a fascia, behind here you've got 4 gas isolation valves. So you've got the oven, the hob, the fridge, the Aldi boiler. Any problems with gas, turn the bottle off to be safe, but if a certain gas item was leaking and you were wild camping, what you can do is, to not ruin your holiday, you can just isolate the appliance. So say it was the oven that was at fault, you would just turn it. This is isolated, there's no gas now getting transferred from here to the oven. But these are mainly for when the vehicle is annually serviced. On your habitation service, which is annually, every year you need this, because there's a lot of workings on this vehicle and there's more, there's gas, there's electric, there's water. It needs to all be tested for your safety. The technician will test each gas appliance by shutting it off and drop testing each appliance just to make sure it's reading the right gas levels that are set by the National Caravan Council. To operate your FedFit fridge, so your on-off button is the far left-hand button, which you can turn off the fridge and you can turn the fridge back on. So when storing, you'd obviously have it turned off and the door open. So on the door, you've got this little blue catch, which you'd pop in the middle there of the hinge and just rest the door. Don't shut the door with any force, and that'll just mean that the airtight rubber seal doesn't trap the air in and allows air to circulate in and out the fridge when you're storing it to avoid smells. But to operate, so once you've turned it on, if you press the square button here, you'll notice that A stays lit up and there's a picture of a plug, a mains plug. That means that the fridge is operating on mains electric. So there's 3 sources the fridge can operate on: 240 volt gas or 12 volt when the engine is running. It's not a feed off the leisure battery, it's physically when the engine started, it sends a 12 volt feed from the alternator to the fridge, which just keeps it at the temperature it was previously at. So it's got to be pre-chilled beforehand on either the driveway at home, or if you've gone from one site to the next site and it's a little drive, you can just pop it onto battery and it will keep your shopping nice and fresh. But automatic energy selection will do it all for you. So the brain of the fridge will pick out the best source available to the fridge, and it will always prioritise mains first. So when A is lit up, you don't need to do anything. So if I was to physically go outside and unhook the van and I had a gas bottle on, it would switch over to gas and self-ignite. If I was to put the key in the ignition there and start the engine, it would switch over to battery. It'll do it all for you on automatic. The only time you'll have to change it on automatic is once you've knocked the engine off and you're going on to gas and you've not hooked up, so you've knocked the engine off, you've turned the bottle on, it waits 20 minutes before lighting on gas. This is a safety feature in case you've left your gas bottle open. The last thing it wants to do is for it to light on gas when you're filling in a petrol forecourt. So it waits 20 minutes before lighting on gas. So the way to override this is you press and hold the square button, and you would just use the arrows, and you've got mains, battery or gas, and you would select. This is your temperature, so you can adjust the temperature. So 5 when pre-chilling, and in the summer. In the winter you may want to turn it down just so it doesn't freeze the shopping, and you'd press enter. But normally you would just leave it on automatic, which is the A, and it will do its own thing. So to operate your Truma Aventa air conditioning unit, which you can operate through the Aldi panel by turning the lights on and turning the power on for the unit, but then you do have to use the Truma remote. So press the blue button and point it to the magic eye, which is just here, and you can turn it on. And then if you hit mode, you've got recirculation mode, you've got air conditioning, so you can adjust the temperature, so you can bring it all the way down so that you can provide cool air when it's red hot outside. And you can also heat the vehicle, so you can heat it, but it'll go silent once you change to heat, because it needs to slowly warm itself up. It can't just heat it straight away, because it will crack the expansion tank in the air conditioning unit, but it does provide heating as well as cooling. You can also control the lights by pressing the light button and turn the lights on the panel. Even if you didn't want the unit on, you might just want it on as a light when you're sitting parked up. And should the remote ever come flashing with a spanner, it just means it's become out of sync with the air conditioning unit. You've just got to click the spanner there, press and hold until the remote turns itself on, and it'll just repair itself with the air conditioning unit. You can choose your different fan speed here, so you can reduce it. You've got 3 different stages of fan speed, temperature, and you can set timers there. Should you want the air conditioning to come on during the night and go back off, you can set timers on this remote. So above the fridge, this customer's had a few extras fitted as well that don't come as standard from the Adria factory. So you've got your TV aerial. So this is a Status 570 TV aerial. So you've got a telly booster on here, and you can see there it's showing green, which means it's got a signal. Should it be showing orange, the first thing I would try is the booster. So you can boost the signal here. So there it's going to orange, red. Try turning it up, it's going to green, got a signal. Should you still have it on full and it's not got a signal, I would loosen the nut off, push the aerial up, tighten and adjust the aerial on the roof and position it to where the signal is. But look where your other motorhomes and caravans are pointing on your site. Position yours in a similar direction and you should get a good enough signal without messing on for too long. When you're not using it and before you travel, make sure it's pulled in and tightened, because you wouldn't want the wind to cause any damage to the TV aerial. Also at the back of this cupboard, you do have your 5G Wi-Fi, which again is another extra that we fitted here in house, so it doesn't come as standard on the Adria Sonic models. So this is a 5G Wi-Fi system. In the pack you've got a little pin similar to an iPhone pin, which you pop in on the side, and it will remove the back, and you'll be able to pop your SIM card in. So passwords and things are on the back. SIM goes in the top there with a pin, and you need a data only SIM card. And what you can do is go to your local, well, whoever you've got your phones with, or you can go on to Google and just Google data only SIM card. Smarties normally come out the best. Once you've activated the SIM, put the SIM in and connect your phones. You can connect up to 10 devices to this, and there's an aerial on the roof which is 10 times stronger than the aerial in your phone, so you should be able to get a Wi-Fi signal wherever you go. But this is 5G, so this is a new system, so it'll work on 5 and 4G, because 5G is still getting rolled out at the moment. So located in the hatch between the fridge and the kitchen, in the floor, this is where your leisure batteries are stored. So on this vehicle you've got 2 leisure batteries, so you've got one in here, one here. Should you ever need to remove them, replace them, take them in the house, if you're putting it in a storage yard over the winter, we always recommend that you take them off the van and you put them on a charger in the garage so that they don't become susceptible to the frost and cause any damage to the leisure battery, because if the leisure battery was left flat in the cold, only a certain percentage of the battery will then take a charge. So that could be anywhere between 30 and 70%, which means that it's not using the full length of the battery, which would then mean that you'd have to change them. So it's very important that every 2 weeks, regardless, more so in the winter, but you do charge the batteries, because if you don't, and the batteries do drain and they're left drained for a while, most batteries won't take a charge. So then you would be looking at a costly repair bill to replenish 2 batteries. So just keep an eye on them, monitor them on the panel, and make sure that you charge them every now and again, just so that the batteries have got a charge in them. In the shower you do have your shower head, but when winterizing, I would always make sure that you unscrew the shower head from the hose. Lie this hose in the shower tray just to stop any water from sitting in this pipe, potentially freezing and causing any damage, leaving the mixer tap open. And make sure that you just clean your shower surrounds out with nothing harsh, no bleaches, because what will happen is, if you use any harsh chemical, it will stain the finish of the white plastic and it'll make it look like a creamy yellow and it looks awful. So just use a light microfiber cloth and some soap or some Dettol sprays to wipe out your shower tray. Across from the shower you do have your toilet. So the toilet door can be used as a toilet door or the bedroom door, depending if you've got guests in the front or if you're just wanting it used as the back bedroom door. Make sure that you press the blue button. You'll get some fresh water flush. Flush the toilet first, put a small amount of water in, and then before you think of using it, grey lever, slide to the right, get rid of the water, use the toilet, everything goes into the cassette, flush again, and close it back to the left. If you've bought the blue and the pink Thetford chemicals, the blue obviously goes into the cassette, the pink would go into a header tank if this motorhome had a header tank. This motorhome doesn't. It's from the freshwater tank. So what I would do is put a small amount of pink in a spray bottle, spray the bowl. So you dilute that with water, spray the bowl, and then flush and close the blade. Does the same job, just you're not getting it from a separate tank, you're putting it in with the spray gun. Toiletry cabinet. When the toilet's full, you'll get 3 green lights underneath the diagram of the toilet. Bathroom light, 1 for the mirror, 1 for the ceiling lights. Water there, you've got a hot push plug, and your water there is red hot, so that water is hot, so your hot water system's working. In the cupboard, underneath the bed, if you can see there, you've got a little sticker there that says on and off, and it's got a line on the bottom of the motorhome. So what that does is, if you lift that cover off, there's a valve which you can turn on and off, and you can see there's a little red dot underneath the back. That provides the heating to the garage. So as it is at the moment, it's switched off. Run your system up, check that the garage is getting warm. If it's not getting warm, there's a valve in there. Turn it on and it'll heat the garage. So people turn these off because it takes the heat away from the living space, but in the winter you probably want that in the garage if you've got bits and pieces in there that you don't want to become susceptible to the frost and cold, such as extra clothing, food, bits and pieces like that. You want to provide the heat to the garage as well. So in the wardrobe you've got your Aldi expansion tank. So the expansion tank houses your coolant. So because it's a more of a central heating system and it's like home, at home you've got water running through your pipes. in the motorhome you have antifreeze running through the pipes, because if you had water running through the pipes you would have to drain it down for the winter, whereas the antifreeze won't freeze. So that can stay in the tank. It's always best to run the system up before you think about topping it up, because it does expand. So you might think, oh, that's showing minimum when it's off. As soon as it starts bubbling, it could be near enough maximum, and you're going to top that up, you're going to take it above that. But should you need to, there's a breather pipe at the top. If you pop your hand above the cover, there's a little cap which you can top it up, so you can mix your antifreeze, which is G13. So Aldi recommend their own, and 6 other brands which you can use, and you can top that up. It has a 5-year lifespan, so this vehicle's brand new in 2023. So in 2028 they would recommend that no later than 2028 the antifreeze was changed, because the antifreeze will start to break down because it's boiling and it's cooling, so it's going to lose its antifreeze properties and potentially get water mixed in there, which is not what it wants. But over that 5-year lifespan they would want to change, so change that every 5 years and you should have great antifreeze properties. So in the bedroom you've also got your Adria media controller. So what you can do with this, you can turn it on and off, and that's when you turn your panel on and it plays that lovely tune and it says Bluetooth mode. That's this. There's an on-off button just underneath where you can turn it on and off. You can connect your phones to it. It is called Adria via Bluetooth, and play your music through the speakers located throughout the vehicle when you're parked up instead of using the radio. You can also connect a 3.5mm aux jack, and you've got a USB-C connection there, and you can connect your phones and just play your music through it. That's all it's there for. So on this model, as it's a DC, it's got the pop-up lounge. So you do have 2 lounge seats, and then you've got 2 travelling seats. So you can put the travelling seats away when you're on a site, so you're not having a fixed dinette. But then you do have the option of travelling 2 extra passengers in the back. So remove all the cushions, put this up, lift the backrest up, pop the base back down and fold it over so you've got space for your legs. Put your base cushion, your big base cushion, back on, and get your backrest from your garage, and that just goes under here, and there you've got one forward facing large adult travelling seat. So underneath here as well, you do have all your 12 volts. So you've got your 12 volt module. This has got all your 12 volt fuses, so you can see all your fuses are listed with the fuse and what fuse does what. Any problems with fuses, what I would do is carry some spares, and if something's not working on 12 volt, it's probably always likely to be a fuse. So all you need to do is pull the fuse out, look in the centre of the fuse, and as you can see in the centre, that's intact. It would be blown, and you'd be able to pop a new fuse in, and that should solve the problem. Mains, you've got your trips here, so this is your trip box. You can access that from the side, so if something's not working on mains, try tripping the van. If the van trips, you've got power. If it doesn't trip, you've not got power, so try where you're getting the power from, or you can check your trips, but check your trips first before you check your site trips. In there you've got your sun controller, so that's for your solar panel. That's wired straight at the control panel, so you've just got to look and monitor the battery charge through the leisure battery charge on the control panel to see what the charge the battery's got in it. In the corner here as well, which is quite hard to see, but you do have a red battery key, so this is a battery master. So what you can do is you can shut off the 12 volt supply from the leisure battery when you're parked up, so you need to have it on, or you can turn it and have it off, and you can remove the key as well. But what I would do is just turn it off when you're storing it, and turn it back on when you're using it. It will just stop any necessary power drains should you get a power drain. It will stop the power being wasted through the leisure battery when it's sitting and giving you flat leisure batteries. To operate and use your new entertainment system, which is a Uconnect Fate unit, and it's quite a good system, this one. So on the home page you have your radio, your phone and your sat nav. Starting off with your sat nav, so what you can do is you can click on the sat nav, and it'll take you in there. So as you can see, it just gives you a overview of where the van is at the moment. We're on Lobley Hill Road 692. You can scroll in and you scroll out and you can zoom in, recenter. You can also search, so you can search for an address or a name. You've got shortcuts such as parking, fuel. So if I click on a petrol station, it tells you the closest petrol station to us. So there's SO, so you can just press drive, and it's as simple as that, and it'll start the calibrate. So there, drive's just filling up until it starts the process of calculating the route to that point. And there you go, it started the route. And it's just as easy as that to end the route. So that's your sat nav. You can go to media, which is FM, AM, DAB, or Bluetooth audio, should you connect your phone. So on DAB, you can save up to 12 of your favourite stations. Or should I say 18. You can browse your stations. So you've got all your radio stations there. And all you need to do is press and hold to save. So you just save them there. So press and save your presets. You can browse all your stations, or you can go to source and you can change it between FM, DAB and Bluetooth. You've also got your navigate, your air conditioning unit, which is underneath, so all your climate control. So you can put your 1 to 7 on the fan, where you want it to go to, your max, your rear screens, your max aircon and your AC. Sat nav, phone's as easy as connecting a phone. Search for a mobile device, and you want to search on your phone at the same time as this is searching for you, and it'll find your device. So it's found Adria there, which is your module in the back. And then your vehicle, you've got vehicle settings, so you've got all your trips, trip A and B, which will come on when you've got the engine started. So you can view your trip computer through here, as well as on the digital clocks on the dashboard. So on your COMOS monitor on the dashboard, you've got your rear view distance camera, which you can see when travelling forward. And then as soon as you engage reverse, you look further down and you can see the back of the motorhome, and you can hear the beepers going off there. So that's in reverse, but your reversing camera is on here, not on your head unit. It's on here, so you can see permanently when you're driving forward as well as reversing. There's also a switch here, which is for your Aldi. And what it does is it uses the heat from the Aldi boiler when you've been parked up to demist your windscreen. So you've got two stages. You've got a fast setting and a slow setting, and it brings the heat from the radiator that's here up onto the dash and blows the windscreen if it's clouded up or it's frozen. You can use that as well as your Fate demist setting as well. So underneath the travelling seat behind the passenger seat is the location of your Aldi Compact 303 boiler. So what that does is it combines heating the water and heating the vehicle. Obviously antifreeze to heat the radiators. This holds 10 litres of water at any one time, and you can feel there we've got it on, it's warm. To drain off the boiler in the winter, it's very important that you do drain it off, because if you leave the water in and we have a hard frost, the water could be susceptible to freezing, and if it freezes, you're in for a big repair bill, because it's not covered under your warranty, because it's your responsibility to drain the motorhome off. Plus, it's very costly for an Aldi boiler. What I would do is, I would start off from the outside when I'm winterising the van, and I would start with the waste, come in and drop the fresh, open all the taps. Once I've opened all the taps, I'd come to here. So there's a little hatch here at and this is where your boiler valve is. So this here is an anti-frost valve. So when it detects 3 degrees, it'll automatically drop the water. So there's a button here which will pop out on the bottom where my finger is. When that button pops out, it'll allow the 10 litres in the boiler to drain directly out underneath the chassis. But what I would do is I would never rely on it, because if this valve ever becomes faulty, you've relied on the valve, and then it could freeze the water and you could be in for a big costly repair bill, like I've said. So what I would do is I would come in and I would just turn the valve like so. The button will pop out, do it without the pump on, and it will just drain out all the water. When you're ready to reuse it, if you just turn the diamond back, push the button in. If the button stays in, great. If it doesn't stay in, try just putting the heating on first without the hot water. It will warm this area up, and then you should be within 10-15 minutes be able to press the button in. Otherwise, get a hairdryer, heat the area and push the button in. It's just because you might be trying to do it when it's still too cold, which is fine because you can use a motorhome when it's cold. Just make sure that you've heated the area up to keep the button in, otherwise it will pop out. Once you've done the boiler, make sure the taps are done. Turn the pump on, blow the pump out. Once you've blew the pump out of water, take the filter off, and that is the van winterised for the season. When you come to reuse it, obviously assemble the pump filter back up, shut this, shut all the taps, shut the cold water, freshwater tank, fill the vehicle with water, come in, put the control panel on, put the pump on, go to the cold side of the tap first. When you go to the cold side of the tap, you'll get a pressurised flow of cold water straight away. When you start to go to the hot side, it will cough and splutter and make all sorts of noises until you get a pressurised flow from the hot side. On one tap, you do them all, and then the system is then primed. But always prime the boiler, because you need to allow the water to fill. It'll cough, splutter and make all sorts of noises until you get that flow of water. Once you've done one tap, do them all, and it's as simple as that. But drain the boiler off, because if not, it will cost you a lot of money to replace the boiler. Also, when I'm in here, you've got 2 valves here. So 2 valves similar to like the one in the back underneath the bed for the garage. What they do is they heat the floor. So one is one sends this one sends the heat to the garage. This one here heats the floor, so you can turn it on and off, but it does take it away from the radiators. So you can turn that on and heat the floor as the pipes run through the floor, so your floor will become warm if you turn that valve on. And at the moment, these are in the on position, so they will heat the floor and the radiators, and it will send the heat to the garage, which is then controlled via the valve further back underneath the bed.